of these three guys, who is more droppable? Allen Robinson, Robbie Anderson, or Odell Beckham Jr.?
It's funny because you picked three receivers that I just can't seem to quit. But of the three, I would say Robbie Anderson, which is funny because in my waiver wire article this week, I included Robbie Anderson and said when people drop him, pick him back up. Because he's been averaging like 10 targets per game over the last three, but I still think of the three, he is the most droppable because, for one, I do not think he's ever going to be the top target on his team. I think that role goes to DJ Moore, where the other two, I think, will be the top targets there. Allen Robinson, I know he has been brutal. Like, he doesn't have 11 fantasy points in a game this year. It has been tough. But I still think his upside is the highest of the three, especially as Justin Fields. He looked better last week than he has any game so far this year as he starts to get more comfortable. Hopefully, Allen Robinson could rebound on the back half of the season to make up for the slow start. And Odell, he still flashes so much potential at time that I just can never seem to quit him. I do think at this point right now, you could value Odell more as like a wide receiver 3 than anything else, but I still think the upside that he possesses is enough for me to hold on to him here.
So I'm leaning with Odell on this one, and I think for me this sort of goes back to the way I felt about him in the preseason, where I was pretty hands-off because I just didn't know what to expect. I felt like there were going to be a lot of highs and lows, and I guess in some ways you've had that, right? He first game was in week 3. He got 5 for 77. Then week 6, he had 5 for 79. In between that, he had a couple of 20-yard games. And for me, it just feels like the targets are so inconsistent from week to week on a team, especially that when healthy, they want to run the football. So much of that offense runs through Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. You've got the inconsistency of Baker Mayfield when he's healthy at quarterback. But I think all three of these guys, all three of them are super frustrating, and deep down you really feel like maybe you should let them go, but there's something about all of them where you're like, I can't quite hit the drop button yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like, if I have any of them, so last week in a league, I wanted to bench Allen Robinson, but I was going to have to drop, in order for me to update my lineup, I was going to have to drop, like, Jamison Crowder. And I was like, you know what? I'll give Allen Robinson one more week before I have to make a move. And it ended up costing me the week because he struggled mightily, and the guy I was going to get in over him played well. But I still, I'm at the point now where I'm benching him, and I'm cool benching any of these three if you have better options. But the upside that they possess, maybe it's me just looking at them with rose-colored goggles on, but, I just can't seem to quit them for some reason. I think they have too much upside.
I don't think you're wrong, but it's just I was going through and looking at right now, Allen Robinson is the wide receiver 54. Robbie Anderson is 62. And where is Odell? He's, I think, even further down the list, if I'm not mistaken. He is 78. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's funny because they're all struggling in their own way. Like, Anderson is struggling with drop. Like, the volume has been there the last 3 weeks. He just hasn't done anything with it. Odell has gotten open at times, like downfield for open what could be touchdowns, and Baker has missed him. And then Allen Robinson, I mean, it's just going wrong on all fronts. So, yeah, it's all a little different for each of them, but I still, these are all three receivers that we were drafting well inside the top 30.
Absolutely. It's been awful for three of those guys, all of them. All right, let's go the other way, though. Which underperforming running back is most likely to step things up for the back part of the season between Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Mike Davis?
I think Mike Davis is the easy out
He's
here.
He's the easy out for me.
Cordero Patterson is just better. For me, it's still Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and so much of that is because of the pieces around him. Like, he's on one of the best offenses in football with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. My biggest concern with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, besides the injury, is Daryl Williams stepped up last week. He had more carries than CH has in a game this year and more targets. And that is the concerning part to me because we always talk up CEH as a great receiving back. Imagine what he could do catching passes there. He doesn't have more than 3 targets in a game this year. Daryl Williams in his first start gets 4 and 21 carries. And my concern with that, Marcus, is is it time to have a discussion? Is Daryl Williams the better of the 2 running backs in Kansas City?
He might be. At least we should have the discussion of is CEH overrated? Did we get too excited about him? Because look, last year, he was okay, and like I keep saying, he was a victim of our expectations. This year, the expectations were lowered.
Yeah.
And he's still struggling to meet them. So maybe it's not us. Maybe it's him.
He did have an ankle injury in the preseason, and he's banged up now, so maybe he just hasn't been healthy. But, yeah, I think a lot of it is on us. And I also think a lot of it was that, like, we kind of got fooled because he played on basically the Kansas City Chiefs version of in college football, like with that Joe Burrow LSU team that had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and more around him. Like, so I think because of all the pieces around him in college as well, it probably propped him up a little bit as well.
Probably did. I'm gonna pick Josh Jacobs here for this one, and mostly because of just he's still getting so many snaps and so many touches in that offense. I know earlier in the week on Fantasy Live I talked about Kenyan Drake and the fact that he had a couple of touchdowns and looked like they were using him more. In reality, he only had 6 touches in that game, which was more than he'd had recently.
Yeah.
But still not really a lot. And so maybe with Greg Olsen calling plays now, maybe we see more Kenyan Drake. But I still think when it comes to the running game, it's a lot of Josh Jacobs here. I wish they would throw him the ball more. Maybe they do now. Maybe they actually involve him in the passing game more because John Gruden's not calling the plays. I don't know. But I still think there's a path for him to kind of be something close to a workhorse and get those opportunities. Maybe even score a couple touchdowns. That'd be nice.
Yeah, if they stopped giving them all to Kenyan Drake, apparently.
Right. Apparently Kenyan Drake's like the touchdown machine now. Who knew?
Do you think we could trust Kenyan Drake at all? Because I still don't feel good about it.
I don't feel good about starting him, but I think what I saw last week is like, look, if I have him, I'm going to hold him. And if I'm in a deep league and he's available, maybe I stash him just to see if he's starting to get more work.
Yeah, if the new play caller is starting to actually, the guy they gave $12 million to, maybe get him the ball.
Maybe get him the ball. I don't know. It's a crazy idea. All right, last one. Who is the better bye-week quarterback option between Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz?
So I said Carson Wentz. I think if you are solely playing for Week 7, you could go with Matt Ryan. I like his matchup a little bit more. But Carson Wentz has been playing good football, I think better than he gets credit for. He has one game this season with less than 17 fantasy points. I think his floor is a little bit safer, while I think Matt Ryan has the higher ceiling. And the reason why I like Carson Wentz is this week isn't the best matchup against the Niners, but after that, the Colts schedule really opens up. So I think Carson Wentz is going to be one of those guys that, like, 1 week you'll use him as your bye week replacement. Then I'll use him the next week. But, like, if you have your quarterback on bye in, like, a couple of weeks, it's a good move to get ahead of that and grab Carson Wentz right now, I think.
I think you kind of nailed it, though, where Carson Wentz, I think, has the longer-term outlook that you want. He's been the perfect QB2 this year too. If you have him in like a super flex league or something, because that very steady 17-point floor pretty much most weeks, that's kind of all you want out of your second quarterback. And I think this week, I think the Niners have actually been a lot softer than I think we anticipated. So I think there's some moves there. But I do think if it's for this week, I like Matt Ryan. Look, the last couple of games for Matt Ryan, he's gotten you over 20 points. Now, admittedly, they were against some bad defenses. He beat the Washington football team, and he beat the Jets. But the Dolphins haven't been very good this year defensively. So this could be another good game for Matt Ryan. He's kind of turned into a matchup-based guy, but seems like a pretty good matchup.
One of my pet peeves, though, is when, like people – because, like, the other day I was excited about Tua playing well, and people are like, oh, well, it was a good matchup. And I'm like, well, would you be happy if he played bad in a good matchup? Like, this is what a quarterback is supposed to do, go out and take advantage of these bad defenses that they get to play. So Matt Ryan has shown us he's capable of doing that, and the Dolphins' defense is far from what we expected. So I like him a lot. I think this is the week Calvin Ridley gets going.
This is the big Calvin Ridley week?
I think so.
Hey, look, we had the big Kyle Pitts week just before the bye, so now we get Calvin Ridley going, and everything's going to be good again in Atlanta. That gets us to the starts of our game previews for Week 7. We'll get it kicked off with Thursday Night Football.